Right. Hi, Jennifer. Now, you're one of the contributors to this great report on middle management. I think, if I remember, the angle that you took was very much based on AI and technology and how that's going to influence middle managers and the role in the future. Do you want to just give me an overview of what you see the impact of AI being on middle managers?
Yes, just to have a little bit of context, I really fundamentally believe that as a global society, we are at a key inflection point right now. The way that we have led organizations, the way business has grown, has been very much of the industrial age mindset. You build things, you sell things, you make money. People, as employees, come into a company, they work their way up. The further they go, the more money they make. So they buy more things, and it's a very capitalistic society of build more, buy more, make more, so you can build more, buy more, and make more. And in that context, I believe that historically the role of middle management was to connect, if you will, these individual workers that were building things to connect them to each other. So you would have teams or departments, and a manager would tell everybody how to work together. And then that middle manager would take what was coming from above on leadership as to what that team needed to produce. And the middle manager became the translator between the leaders and the worker bees. And in that role, the leaders expected the middle manager to watch over these little worker bees and make sure that the worker bees were making enough things in the right way and the right structure that would increase the revenue and profits of the company. I mean, a very industrial age, make things, oversee people making things in order to make more money to help the leaders and everybody else grow. Now, I personally believe that that system has served us well for probably 150 years. But to quote an ancient philosopher from China, Sun Tzu, your strength becomes your weakness. And what got you from the 1800s into 2026 is not going to get us as a global society from 26 to 2050. I mean, if you look at, we've destroyed the planet through this whole make more, buy more, sell more process. We've polarized the haves and the have nots. And then enter the world of AI, because AI can actually make things. AI and robotics and technology can actually make things quite well on its own. So those worker bees do not need to be there making things. They can be redeployed to use their mind instead of their body to do other things. So if the worker bees move into other roles, what then is that role of a middle manager to watch over them and put them together? That doesn't seem to make sense. And if the leaders have a vision and they communicate that vision to the technology, what's the role of the middle manager to be that translator? So, in that way, I do believe that the forces in society combined with AI really make the traditional industrial age, if you will, middle manager quite obsolete. Does that mean that there's not a role for those people? No, there can be a great role for those people, because the worker bees that are now off creating and doing and collaborating and designing and thinking for the future, they need people that are good at facilitating dialogue, that are good at team management, that are good at encouraging collaboration, people that are good at translating what one level says to another. They need people with the skills that were developed by middle managers, they need those people, but in a different function. So I believe the role of the middle manager that was at one point overseer and holding it together and translator, that role should shift and will shift to where the people with those skills of collaborating, coaching, guiding, understanding, making sure that things are done in the most effective way, that will become much more of a coach, if you will, or a champion or a connector and a collaborator, bringing people together as they're no longer worker bee, but they are thinker, creator, problem solver in this new world that we're moving into.
Yeah, okay, great. So we're seeing there's a trend away from the authoritarian traditional leader through to
Yes.
one who is more collaborative, team orientated, and is has the role of bringing on the human beings in the organization. Where do you see AI fits into this picture? Because that's an evolution's been happening anyway. Technology has been replacing jobs. We have robots in factories, computers in the office. What's so significant about AI that this is a real tipping point?
Well, I think AI is one of the elements that is driving the tipping point. The power and the speed of generative AI, which is only one form of AI, if you will, but the power and the speed of that and the breadth of the LLMs that we have today, and the fact that they can be built into agentic AI where it's not only just a person telling the tool what they want, but the tools begin to work together. So agents can be part of a team that accomplishes the task that people historically have done, whether that is updating a database whenever new entries come in, whether that is laying out the design plans for the new Tesla. But those tasks, if you will, can now be done holistically end to end by AI. That frees more people from the doing, giving people the opportunity to now shift to true knowledge work, to be the creative folks that are designing the AI agents, that are overseeing and evaluating what comes from the tool, and that are making the critical decisions on how the activities that the AI tools are working together, how those activities relate to the needs of the organization and enhancing the output. So the people, all of us at all levels, if you will, become in many ways the drivers and the leaders and the designers of how the tool gets the work done, if you will. And that's very much the case with today's generative AI, also in the future of deterministic AI and other tools that will simply speed the ability to create, design, and go deeper into research and taking life forward.
So this kind of sounds great from one perspective because it improves productivity and enhances work. But for other people, specifically the people who are now in traditional middle management and senior management roles, AI must be seen as a threat as much as a promise, given that from your description, we kind of don't need quite as many people to get the same output as we used to under the old model. So, do you see a reaction coming against AI from people just self-preservation, wanting to stick with the old model because it's what they know, or do you think people will adapt?
Well, I definitely see still today some resistance, and I think that does come out of fear of if AI really grows to its potential, what does that mean for me? And I do think AI is growing by leaps and bounds. We're at quantum levels of growth right now. So avoiding is not a good idea. You're guaranteeing that you will be obsolete and left behind. Um, However, having said that, you know, in a world of AI, there are lots of opportunities in which people are needed more now than ever before. Because AI, still today, even with agents and even with autonomy, AI is a technology. It's a tool. And and the role for people is to define and to guide how that tool is utilized to achieve the purpose and the results of the organization. And I think this gives a real big opportunity for especially middle managers who have probably a decade or decades of experience in these functions and seeing how things work. I mean, those middle managers have a ton of contextual knowledge and experience. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for them individually, but also collaboratively within a company or within an industry to take a step back and think about in the industrial manufacturing of cans industry, where can we go and how can we go further? And how can we best utilize the tool? Using the mind to think creatively of how the tool could solve bigger problems. It can do all of what can be done today, but what comes next? What are the next levels of challenges and problems and areas in which the people can design the future and how they use the tool to get beyond what it is today?
Yeah.
In
So,
fact,
but
there's
I guess we're talking about people in general and middle managers or whatever's left in particular having a kind of very different set of skills than they used to have.
yes.
Take a example, used to manufacturing, making cans of beans or whatever.
Yeah.
The production lines, largely automation has replaced people pouring the beans in the can and putting the top
Yeah.
on. I think now what we're saying is the organization of that, the next level of management and design, AI can kind of do. So we're talking about the jobs that are left being that needing more creative, inventive, intellectual skills that the technology doesn't quite have yet, although I guess it's learning fast.
Right.
Um, and so will employers need to they'll either need to get rid of their bottom level of people or to somehow upskill them to cope with AI, because AI's done the routine stuff. They've got to rise above it. Do you see that a great need for human development, and
Huge.
will employers be up for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think every single person on the planet today should be thinking about what are my innate skills, not necessarily what I've been doing for the last 5, 10, 30 years. What are my innate skills? And what value can I personally bring in a society in which AI does and oversees and quality checks the task? What are the human skills? And those human skills, such as ability to communicate, ability to think out of the box, to see the thing that no one is aware of, ability to collaborate with other people, ability to encourage people to talk to each other and dive in on a topic. Those are extremely important skills, really the human skills,
Yeah.
the ability to think critically and to analyze and to question. Those are critical skills and those don't require college education. They don't require going to Microsoft Copilot training. I mean, they require opportunities and challenges and ways to think differently. And personally, I'm really surprised that there are not yet programs available, either in many companies or governments or education centers or private public, that help people to think differently. Because that's what I believe is needed. It's not simply retrain people how to do a prompt for Claude. It's help people to understand how to use their human capacity, that creativity, curiosity, collaboration, the human skills. That's what's needed, I believe.
Yeah, I guess in conventional employment, we've kind of knocked a lot of that out of people. When you
Exactly.
when you're kids, you're very creative. You come up with great ideas, and then you're told you're a dreamer. Get your nose
Yeah.
back to the grindstone. Do a kind of get on, do a job for money. Now that's kind of changed, and
Yes.
it is a question of education. I think it's a question of social change as well. Is that
Yes.
we valuing those creativity skills more? People, the artists, musicians, people that do stuff that even AI will struggle to do for a while.
Mhm.
I think as you say, the human qualities. But I guess there's the number of jobs though that need that will reduce significantly. I was just thinking the other day about self-driving cars, never mind trucks and buses, right? So if I want to run a taxi firm now, today I have to employ drivers or I Uber them and
Mhm.
use they still there's a human that still drives the vehicle who collects the money who gets paid with it. I think, hang on, if I got a fleet of self-driving vehicles and I've got a good website where people can book them, I can sit back and make money by just investing in a few vehicles. I don't need humans at all, right? And that's an maybe extreme example, but yet that is example. So what happens to all the guys that used to drive taxis? That not all of them are going to be creative designers of taxi firms or whatever. So I can see there's quite a even if people are capable of being upskilled to cope with the AI revolution, that there still is not enough of the upskilled work to cope with the needs of all the people who are going to get made redundant one way or another. Do you see there a bit of a, a, a negative scenario there, and even a kind of backlash against AI as the guilty party here, even though it's technology more generally?
Yeah, I think we're at a difficult inflection point, and there's always a bit of pain before things get better. And just to use your example, I mean, I have talked to a lot of taxi and Uber and Lyft and Bolt drivers in my days, and to be honest, most of them, the vast majority, do not enjoy driving a taxi or a Bolt or a whatever. They do it because they need money. Um, and so ultimately, in this new world that is emerging, from my point of view, ultimately that need for money may shift. It may be that they need less money because there is less pressure to buy more and upgrade in this whole industrial age, need a bigger car, need a bigger house. If you let go of all of that, maybe you don't need so much money, so you don't need to be uncomfortable for 8 hours a day driving a taxi. In that case, what might that man or woman do? They might research new ways of planting corn in cold countries like Norway and find that there's a whole new environment that they actually love, being in this environment, creating a new food supply.
I think an interesting thing that may well happen as well in this scenario is people may take something that's kind of they enjoy doing, a hobby or a sport even, and manage to make some money. It's like the kind of social media influencers. They're good at
Yes,
chatting about something and they kind of make money out of it because
they
somebody's
do.
prepared to advertise through them or whatever. So I can see different ways of making enough money to make a living. And as you say, that may not be as demanding in terms of the amount of money people need compared with the rat race in the past. And yet people work becomes much more enjoyable because people are doing something they love doing, not something they're
Yes.
forced to do 8 hours a day to pay the mortgage, or whatever.
Exactly. And that's that shift of mindset that I believe is so critical for everybody to really get off of that rat race, even if it's just take a walk for an afternoon and allow yourself for an hour and a half to think differently, to say, what am I really trying to achieve? It's what I call my purpose. What am I trying to achieve in this lifetime of mine? And what is really important for me to get there? Do I need that much money to get there? Do I need that bigger house? Maybe
Yeah,
not. Maybe I'll let go of that. And that will allow me to enjoy planting corn and experimenting or taking kids out into the park on horseback rides to reduce their stress
yeah,
or other things that can give back to society in a different way while helping you as a person achieve whatever your purpose is.
yeah. I think the pandemic did us a favor in the sense that people sat back from
Hmm.
going to work every day and thought, what's life
Hmm.
all about? It's
Hmm.
about family, it's about fulfillment. Yes, money is necessary to keep things ticking over, but it's not the prime object.
Hmm.
And evidence is that quite a lot of people have reduced their hours or contracted out of the high pressured workplace
Yes.
for lifestyle reasons because they recognized they were never seeing the kids from one end of the week to the other because you got home when they were already in bed, kind of thing. Suddenly you work from home during the pandemic, you realize actually part of my responsibility is bringing up the family. It's not just bringing the money in
Mhm.
for the family and so on. Although I see what's happened a bit is that was great at the time the pandemic made us stop and think. But now, okay, that's now become a bit of history. That was a bit of a blip on the horizon. Do you see people going back to old habits? And again, do you see a bit of a AI hype bubble at the moment that will kind of not burst completely, but people will start going back to old habits because that's where they feel comfortable? Or are we really on the crest of a wave of change?
Yeah, so let me take the second part of that first. While there is a little bit of bubble in valuations of some of the leading AI companies, we this is not a bubble. This is not a hype of we're going back to forget that AI thing. That was an interesting wave. We're way beyond that. Having been in Silicon Valley last week working with our clients and team there, we're way, way, way beyond that. The whole infrastructure is 100% locked in of AI, both what we're using today, generative or predictive AI, but moving into deterministic. So I don't see that as an aspect. What I do find interesting, as you referred to, COVID was a phenomenal wake-up call that what got us from 1800s to 2020 was not going to get us forward. I mean, that was completely a wake-up call. And I think as a global society, people adapted very quickly and many saw the light and that's part of this whole, when people now say return to work, people say, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense. Um, I believe a lot of this return to work, which is even a phrase used in Silicon Valley where people never needed to go into an office before. A lot of that is the authoritarian, the 55 to 65-year-old leaders that are terrified of being completely replaced and obsolete, that are clinging to have control. And hence, it is a reaction to try to go back to the way things were in 1960. I mean, not the way things were in 2019, but to the way things were in 1960. It's a complete insane reversal. that will not last. In fact, I sometimes refer to that whole return to work as kind of like bees and wasps in Norway in October.
Uh-huh.
So let me explain. In bees and wasps do not live in freezing weather. They do not live in snow. You've never seen a bee or a wasp probably in many centimeters of snow. In October, when we're getting into wintertime, those little creatures know instinctively that they're going to die. It's that simple. They're going to die because they can't survive. And so they grasp onto people. I mean, if you sit outside or walk down a street in October, you'll have bees and wasps all over you. And they don't care if you swat at them. They don't care. They're going to die. They know they're going to die. They have nothing to lose. That's the way I see the business leaders that are saying you have to return to work. They're like Norwegian bees and wasps in October. They are those leaders, if they don't let go and embrace something new, they are as certain to die as a bee in mid-October when it snows.
Good. So back to the middle management. Therefore, we've got to kind of following on from those out of date, or let's call them dinosaur leaders. We got kind of Gen Z middle managers coming through
Mhm.
who have come up with technology, who are more familiar with it. Who so do you see them being essentially seeing AI as an opportunity more than a threat in terms of they if they can get on the AI bandwagon, then it'll be good for their career. They don't want to fight against it. Do you see that
Oh
happening in
yeah.
that
Yeah,
direction?
and all of our clients and even within my company Next Step, I mean all of the Gen Z and millennials, I mean AI is just simply it's a part of life. I mean, that's just what you do. It would be like saying, do you think the internet is a good thing to use or not? I mean, yeah, that's just a given. I mean, where they, especially the millennials today, in these middle level, if you will, roles. I mean, they are the coaches, they are the collaborators, they are the connector points, they are the champions for a cause. I mean, they do in many large corporations, they do have a team that they are responsible for, but they don't see themselves as overseeing, did Johnny do this and Sally do that, and let's allocate this task to Amy. I mean, they recognize that Amy, Johnny, and Sally are individuals that are bright and they know the objectives and they know the results that are expected. I, as the manager, if you will, of that team, I'm simply here to support them.
Yeah.
And
So
if they
so
need
so you
something, they come to me and I figure out how to get it done.
okay. So your view of the kind of the future of the organization, let's call it that, is very much flatter without
Completely.
layers of management in the middle, more towards autonomous teams, people working
Yes.
in a network together rather than working as
Yes.
part of a rigid hierarchy. Okay.
Absolutely.
And the AI is a catalyst to help that happen.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
It simply speeds up what's done and how
process.
it's done and can make it a lot more effective.
Yeah. And so from what you were saying about the analogy with the bees and wasps, it also accelerates the death of, or the early retirement of the out of date executives who are not can't easily change. Interesting
Exactly.
because there are those that are grasping onto power still, and that kind of, those are the ones kind of enforcing the return to office mandate because they need to keep control, which I guess
Yes.
for a little while will still happen because if they are the gatekeepers of control, they control the finances, particularly in a Western capitalist economy, if you like. Then the people with the money still have the power, and so we're not talking about a revolution. We are talking about an evolution to delegation of power in organizations further down, I think is what we're saying. And the
Correct.
at the right point in history to oil the wheels to make that one happen. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's where I think that autocratic, top-down leadership, without a doubt, it's that is dying very, very, very rapidly. I mean, it's hard to even imagine a company that is successful with that today.
Yeah, I can name one or two people heading up quite large US corporations who still think it does, but there's some. I won't name any individuals, but you probably know some of the ones I mean. Okay, great. So just in summary now, what I hear you say is a very positive view about the future, particularly for middle managers, because AI in particular, but social change and organizational change in general is opening up opportunities to use more human skills, and
Yes.
some of the routine stuff AI will take away. But the downside of that may be that there are fewer jobs in the traditional sense. There's not so much of a traditional career, and people will have to get used to going through life with something that is very satisfying for them in terms of the way they grow and develop, but is not hierarchical in the sense of they can see they're getting more kudos, more power, more whatever you used to get out of the old system. Is that a fair
Yeah, and
summary?
I have to react, Peter, because as you described that, is it a bad thing that people don't have to work 8 hours a day doing things they really don't want to do, and they're able to have a life where they do things they enjoy and they earn enough through that use of their skills,
Yeah.
whether that's in a employment job, whether that's in a consulting role, whether that's a freelancer, whether that's a creator that sells things, whether that's an influencer, whether that's a farmer. They do things they enjoy using their humanness, and they fulfill their purpose.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
Oh, that sounds much more like the life most people would like to have, I think.
Exactly, which
Uh,
is why I do believe society has outgrown that rat race and the
yeah.
mill of climb up the ladder and work hard and do hard, and that's your work. And then when you retire, you can have a life. And people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. We're about there for time, so that's fantastic. It's been a really interesting discussion, and I'm looking forward to a positive future where the world of work is much more satisfying for people because they can utilize their human skills and abilities and have reward for that other than the traditional hierarchical stuff. Yeah. So great, Jennifer.
It's
Thank you very much.
most welcome. I look forward to working with you in the future in whatever capacity.
Yeah.